Today I'm going to talk about the different kind of watercolor brushes you need if you're starting out, beginning in watercolor, and the basic brushes that you should have. And this particular brush style is called a rigger, a liner, or a number 2. It goes by many names depending on the brush. This particular one is a rigger. It's got a very long and thin head of bristles at the end. They get very thin when they're wet. And this is a number 2 brush. It's a flat, but it's a number 2. They call this a rigger because years ago ship builders and painters would use it for painting on ships. I don't know why it's specifically a rigger, but that's something you could research. The number 2 also flattens out nicely when wet, and it's great for lines. The long hairs on this form a precise point. This is also kind of a number 2 or rigger here that I'm using. You can see how finely detailed and chiseled it is. Now seeing black tape on these. These are very much loved and used by me. I would say they're my second favorite brush when I'm painting. So I put black electrical tape on there to keep the wood from flaking when I'm using it. I've had them for years. Let's see, they are great for lines, details, twigs, blades of grass, branches of trees. You can very light touch when you use them. Here's some examples that I did. This is with the number 2, kind of a dry brush type of thing, a little bit wetter, little dry brush with the edge. These are kind of wet lines that I've done. Some dry brush. Again, I've used these for brick. Just a tip, don't paint every brick when you're doing it. It doesn't look good. This is some sampling I've done with using a rigger. You can see it's a very thin line. I use them a lot for blades of grass. I use them to lift sometimes too, to get a little bit of light in a dark wash. This is a dry brush, just some splattering, and they're great for signing your name. So that's the basic information on using a rigger or a number 2, going by rigger, liner, or number 2. 2 brushes, I would say they're the second favorite of mine because I do a lot of landscapes and blades of grass and tree limbs. And again, you don't need to buy a lot of brushes when you're starting out and beginning with watercolor. Some of the basics are perfectly fine, and you can build on your collection as you learn the medium and what it does.